Welcome to Talk of the Tatnam, where we, the supporters, get the chance to talk with players, coaches and backroom staff at Pooltown Football Club. This week we speak to our number 10 and centre forward Toby Holmes. After a slow start to the season, Toby has netted 5 times in the last 6 games after the appointment of new manager Matt Tubbs. Toby joins us now.
Hello Toby, how's it going?
Hi John, how are you? All right?
Yeah, very good, very good. A bit of a tough weekend after what had been a pretty decent run to get hit for 4 against Basingstoke. Pretty tough.
Yeah, not the ideal result, of course. But yeah, I just don't think we were at it from minute one really. Gave away quite a cheap early goal, and then managed to get back into the game and get a bit of a foothold in it. And then sort of coming at half time, said that we could obviously get a lot better, and maybe they didn't have too much to offer more. And if we stayed in the game, we had a good chance of winning it. Obviously, away from home, we've got to try and pick up some points, even if it's just a draw. And then, just 3 really disappointing goals to give away second half. Lapse in concentration for the second, the deflected free kick for the third, and then obviously got Harvey chased after his own long ball and did a lovely finish for a centre back. And then you kind of think, we got 5-10 minutes here, maybe try and get something and take a point. And then and then the last goal sort of just killed it really, which is disappointing because like you said, we've been on a good run since Tubsy's come in. So not a good day at the office, but hopefully not too many more of those. Yeah,
I couldn't go unfortunately, so I have watched the highlights. It does seem like another day, probably 2 of those goals don't go in, and it's a bit of a tight game.
Yeah, this is it, and then it's a bit more tight, and we didn't really create much second half, which was disappointing on all fronts, really. So another day, we should have been a lot better, and maybe taken a point, but can't really dwell on it for too long because we got another game tomorrow, so time to put it right and hopefully put in a good performance tomorrow.
Yeah, actually, whilst we're on that subject, how do you find it? Do you like having a quick turnaround there when you've had a defeat?
I'll happily play sort of Saturday, Tuesday every week. Training's good and the sessions have been good, but it's nothing like playing a game. So I'd much rather play more midweek games. But obviously, with work and stuff, it makes it hard. But yeah, definitely after a defeat to have a game sort of 2 to 3 days after, it's always good because then you can sort of put right what you did wrong, and you haven't got too long to think about it. Whereas if you've got a week or so till the next game, it's it then starts to sort of mount up a little bit, whereas we've got time to instantly put things right.
Yeah, right. So moving on to yourself, the fans wanted me to speak to you first, which is quite nice. So they want to know, or I'm going to ask on their behalf, sort of tell us about your footballing journey from when you realised you had a spark for the game to up until your second spell now at Poole.
Well, yeah, it's been quite a long and windy road, if I'm honest. Started playing at school, just in the playground and stuff, and then I went to Broadstone first school, so just joined Broadstone Football Club with all the lads from my year group, because we just used to play in the playground together. Stayed there from, I think it was about 6 or 7 to 16, and then because they didn't have a men's team, we joined Parley Sports because they had 3 or 4 senior men's sides, obviously throughout the Dorset leagues, with the first team playing in the DPL, I think they were. And then so we could sort of drip feed into them from sort of 16 onwards. A couple of the lads did, a couple didn't. And then I didn't really get a nod at any of the Parley sides, and my sister had a boyfriend at the time who played for Corfe Mullen, and he was just like, why don't you come and train for us and just play for us on a Saturday and then still do my under 18s on a Sunday. So I went there. I think they were in Dorset Division 3 at the time. Went there. I don't know, you might have to fact check some of these stats, but I'm trying to, this is good 14, 15 years ago now, so I'm trying to remember the exact numbers, but I think it was around 52, 53 goals I scored that season. Obviously Dorset Division 3, so but for a young lad, I sort of got the bug for men's football then, and I was very young and fit and a lot faster than some of the players in that division, so it made for a good first season in men's football. But then obviously because I was still at Parley under 18s, we were still sort of affiliated with them. So then the first team manager at Parley wanted me to go back there that summer. And I think Corfmullen got offered a double promotion. So because they'd won Dorset Division 4 the year before, and then we'd won Dorset Division 3 because they'd won 2 back to back. They got offered to go straight up to Dorset Division 1.
That's a bonus.
But a lot of the players didn't want to because they were
too much of a step.
Yeah, so whereas I was quite keen to obviously try and have a go at it. But yeah, they didn't want to do it, so I just thought, well, I can go back to Parley, and they've got 2 or 3 sides that are higher up, sort of thing. And then, again, sort of, I think I was playing left wing back when I went back for Parley. The first team was my first appearance for the first team, was at left wing back, and then sort of, again, messed around a little bit. So I think it was Ham United Reserves I went to, played left wing. I think they were in the DPL. Had about 15 games there, scored 8 goals, and then again the Parley first team manager called me back and finally gave me a go on the side, and then had I think 3 or 4 years at Parley men's first team. And my current boss, so the guy that I work for doing my day job, was the manager at Parley Sports at the time. And I was a bit between jobs and careers, and sort of come out of sixth form and went to college. That didn't really work out. So didn't really have any sort of career plans, and he offered me a job. And that sort of, on the pitch then, I sort of tried working a bit harder because I felt like I sort of owed him something for sort of giving me a job, a day job.
Yeah, that's nice.
And then it just sort of kicked on really from there. I think it was the January time he gave me the job. And then from then till the end of the season, I think I scored 20 goals in the Dorset Premier League. And then the following season, I think we finished 4th or 5th, which was their highest ever finish. And I think I scored 35. And then obviously, if you're scoring goals at that sort of level, people from the Wessex League and leagues above are sort of keeping tabs on you. And Tommy gave me a call and said if I wanted to start training with them, which was obviously a massive step up. It was, I think, 4 or 5 leagues difference, because that was the year they won the Southern Premier. I came in and I was training alongside Alan Connell, sort of looking at him going, Christ, you're one hell of a player, and I'm a sort of nobody here.
Is that quite common? I mean, is there sort of network of the lower teams? Would your Parley guys have perhaps talked to Tommy and said, we've got this young guy here, he's tearing the league up, do you want to have a look, or something like that?
Not sure. I'd imagine sort of there's a semi sort of scouting network at that sort of level, but whether it's sort of might be managers from other teams saying, "Oh, have you seen?" or people Tommy was close with, or have you seen that guy down in there scoring these goals? He's quite handy, sort of thing. I'd imagine there was conversations but no one from sort of my side was pushing for it at all.
Sure, they wanted to keep hold of you.
Yeah, but it was just sort of like, oh, he scored a few goals, so come and train with us. But yeah, and then I came in the start of pre-season, and then obviously I think Burbs there, Marvin Brooks, obviously Specchi Whisk, JD, Luke Roberts, sort of all of those guys were there, and then Alan Connell signed as well, and he was sort of on his way sort of down the ladder, and all of a sudden I sat next to him on the bench and training with him, and he's been a seasoned pro for 10-12 years, and I've literally done nothing of the sort, just literally played 5-a-side at training, and that was about it. So that was I was a bit sort of taken aback first time.
How did you get on that first day?
I was a bit nervous because obviously even the other guys who I knew of Burbs and stuff, they were really good with me, but it's just it's a different level, like from the Dorset Premier League. Sort of our training sessions would be a bit of 5-a-side and a few pints, whereas it was slightly different for the Poole Town that season. But they were good as gold. Obviously they could see that I was quite raw with what I could offer, but I was quick. I could always finish, so I sort of backed myself a little bit. But when you're in and around it, you can sort of see the difference in sort of a lot of those players. I would have had careers in academies and stuff like that, which is something that I never had. So obviously their sort of touch was better, their vision and the speed that they did things was a lot better than mine, because I'd sort of never had that sort of experience throughout any of my youth career. I never had a chance in an academy or any trials or anything. I just used to play with my friends and play a bit of five-a-side and try and kick it in the goal, basically.
It does seem quite uncommon. I mean, from whenever I see a new player sign, nearly always, 9 times out of 10, if not more, they're ex-academy players from Bournemouth, Southampton, Portsmouth. So it's a bit of an unusual
it's very rare. I think even now I've sort of been at this level for 7-8 years now.
Yeah.
I don't think I've come across anyone else that's not been at an academy. You always got the guys that have been there for 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, and then they haven't quite made it as a pro, and they drop into the non-league game. You don't tend to get many that have never sort of had a sniff at anything sort of come up. And especially from me jumping up those 5 leagues, it was sort of, I was just sort of a rabbit in headlights almost. I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't really know whether I'd get a chance or anything. It was just sort of come along and see how you fit in. But I was dual registered at the time, so because obviously I wasn't on a contract or anything, if I wasn't in the pool squad, I could go back and play for Parley. So there was no sort of, because it was a different level, you could sort of literally just flutter between the two. So if Tommy wasn't going to use me, he would rather that I just stayed at Parley and got some minutes, which worked quite well. I think I played for Poole in like the Reddingshire Cup, so like the League Cups and stuff, and the under-23s games. Even though I'd just turned 23, I was still sort of allowed to play as one of the 1 or 2 senior players in the under-23s. And then, I didn't really get a shout with Tommy, which was to be expected, because it was the year they won the league. They had 3 or 4 strikers there, and obviously the likes of Alan Connell. You weren't going to start me ahead of those sort of players. Richard Gillespie was there and firing, and obviously Luke Roberts was young but still a hell of a player. Obviously had Marvin Brooks, players like that. So I think when Gilly got injured, Tommy went for loans rather than giving me a chance, which is completely understandable when it was the season that they won the league. So they're not going to rely on a lad that's sort of never kicked a ball at the level when you can go out and get a striker to cover, which for me was a bit, again, frustrating, because I didn't really understand the politics of it back then. But nowadays it's easy to see why it didn't really click, because of just the rawness of my abilities and what they were trying to achieve at the time, which I never held anything against Tommy for that. I'd sort of understood it the longer the time went on, but obviously at the time when you sort of get your first sniff and then don't get the chance, it was a bit frustrating. And then that was till sort of the January time. I was with Paul and Parley, and then Dorchester sold their striker, Jonah Ayunga, I think it was. I think I've got his name right now. I hope I have. So Mark Germain was the manager at Dorchester then, and he rang me up and said, "Look, we've lost Jonah. I think he went to Brighton, and Dorch got a bit of money for him as well." But Mark Germain rang me and said, "Would you want to come to us for sort of the last 3-4 months of the season? I'll give you a few starts and stuff and see whether you're good enough," sort of thing. So I was like, well, yeah, it sort of beats not really getting a chance at Poole. And I think as soon as I left, I think Poole got Tony in on loan from Eastleigh at the time. So we literally just missed each other for, I think it was just a few weeks. Tony came in till the end of the season. I went off to Dorchester, which eventually worked in my favour, because when I was at Dorchester, I met Luke Holmes, son of Matty, and then Matty came to watch Luke, saw me play at Dorchester, and then that summer was when Matty got the Wimborne job. So he rang me up and said, "Would you like to come to Wimborne? You'd be my main striker. I think we could work well together. I can play to your strengths a little bit and coach you," because obviously he was just coming out of the academy at Bournemouth. So I thought, why not? I haven't got anything to lose. I sort of see if I can supply my trade at this sort of level and pick up a little bit of pocket money on the side. And then, obviously I had 3 really good years at Wimborne under Matty. But I think what helped me was, obviously, like I said, I'd never had that academy training. So when Matty was taking sessions, my mind was like a sponge. Like I was just really keen to pick things up. I asked Matty for extra sessions, because I'd never had a coach like that. So I really bought into it, And then obviously went on leaps and bounds and had a good goal record for goal to game.
Yeah, was it 120
record.
odd in 150 games or something wild like that, is it?
Yeah, I think it was 142 games, I think, 134 goals or something like that. So nearly a goal a game for 140 games isn't
Amazing,
a bad stat.
Did you sort of hit the ground running? Did you get a slow start and catch up, or did you just...
Yeah, I think the pre-season, I think I only scored one, and sort of the guys were looking around going, who's this guy, sort of thing. And then I think I scored 2 in the first game, and then 2 on the Tuesday night, and then sort of everyone was like, he's all right, actually. But yeah, Matty sort of built the team around me, played to my strengths, and yeah, I just sort of hit the ground running and just didn't stop, really.
How did you find the fitness side of it? Because obviously it's still only a short period of time between jumping up those 5 divisions, I guess.
Yeah, it was something that Matty never made us run sort of pre-season. It was always ball work, and he basically said, if you're not fit enough, you won't play. So it was down to you to do it. It was down to you to do it yourself. But I was always sort of into cross country and stuff at school. I always did like athletics and stuff. Yeah. So I fancied myself to be quite fit, but yeah, it was more the touch and the speed of the game that I struggled with rather than the fitness. But that came just from playing, because you just grew in confidence, grew with your touch, and sort of that, again, over the sort of 7-8 last years, it sort of helped me improve because I've had to improve, sort of thing.
You mentioned your strengths and the team was built around you and they played to your strengths. What do you have those down as? If you were to build a team around you, what would they do for you?
Well, Matty did 4 at the back and then 4-2-3-1. So I had Luke at one point I had Luke Burbridge on the right midfield, Luke Holmes in the 10, and then Jack Lovell on the left-hand side, and then 2 holding midfielders sort of behind that. But they knew that my strengths were my pace and speed in behind, sort of playing on the shoulder of the defenders. Not great at sort of holding the ball up and pinning players, but more the other side, so sort of turning defenders and giving me a chance to stretch my legs a little bit. Yeah, and so we would set up to sort of play out from the back and entice teams to sort of come and press us slightly to create that space for me in behind. Yeah. And then it'd be a quick 1-2-3 pass, or 1 pass or 2 passes, but no more than 3. And we'd work on that in training, just to clip balls in behind for me. And obviously it wasn't every time, but as long as I was getting 3 or 4 of them a game, it was it seemed to be working. So